Enlightenment? Oh, where do I begin? I mean, for starters, it forever altered humanity's never-ending philosophical discussion. I mean, it caused what was the most politically powerful continent on Earth rethink its, well, politics. It made us alter our views, what our place in the universe is, and how we came to be. Everything about regular day to day life that you, dear viewer, are familiar with. Oh my god, get out! Would be considered unfathomable if it weren't for it. Can you leave? Shut up. This is important. While the precise date of this period is up to debate, it was generally from the mid 17th century to the early 19th. It dominated Europe, and its ideas by proxy spread to its territories and the rest of the world. What is it? It's the Enlightenment. This period of European history and dating changes are very fuzzy, so there is a lot of overlap with other important events such as the scientific revolution. It's by most said that when a few scientists, Galileo Galilei and Nicholas Copernicus, suggested that the Earth actually revolved around the sun, not the other way around. Weird. This period was the steady growth of using science to answer questions rather than looking at religion. This naturally received much backlash by those who wanted to perpetuate the tradition of maintaining the church in the state. This helped lead the way to the Enlightenment, which, by contrast, further discussed the realm of philosophy in the near nature of humanity. But science wasn't the only reason. There were many growing unsatisfied with the status quo. 30, the 30 Years' War had ravaged much of the Holy Roman Empire, and its motivation? Religious differences. Many gained the idea that these matters were silly and senseless. There were even signs of protest by the people against the fighting. In 1648, the Peace of Westphalia was signed and Munster was organized to end this conflict. It was a set of two treaties to end this and another war. This greatly reestablished the boundaries of Europe. This also ensured more religious tolerance, well, within Christianity, but still. 335 miles from this was the Westminster School in London, where a young John Locke would study. He is often most celebrated for his contributions to empiricism and an essay concerning human understanding known as, well, an essay concerning human understanding. The widespread and philosophical uses of empiricism is often traced back to Locke, which, by the way, empiricism is the belief that no one has innate ideas that is able to be influenced by their surroundings. Because of this, the individual should take more control of themselves and their own values. The essay, meanwhile, essentially summarizes all of his thoughts of the human psyche and how the human mind develops and changes. His ideas greatly shaped a later growing movement across the Atlantic. It was a little effort called, oh, it's the American Revolution. One of the key reasons people protested was the effort to abolish the monarchy and keep it from being the head of state. Many of the key thinkers, like Thomas Jefferson, Alexander Hamilton, and Ben Franklin, were inspired by the Enlightenment taking place in Europe. The American experiment, in return, inspired many in Europe to take similar actions. Let's keep a pin on that. This also, obviously, allowed for the United States to, well, exist, so would later, thanks to Woodrow Wilson, would shove itself into every dispute in the world. So, yeah, pretty historically significant, I would say. Naturally, many monarchies chose to retaliate against these sweeping changes, but some, quite remarkably, embraced it and utilized the intellectual boom. Some of those were Peter the Great and Catherine the Great of Russia, Joseph II of the Holy Roman Empire, and Frederick the Great of Prussia, not to be confused with Russia. Frederick specifically had close relations with a Frenchman primarily known as Voltaire. He was a very big contributor to many of the ideals of the French Revolution. His beliefs of free will and a focus on intellectualism vibrated throughout his contemporaries and are frequently cited as the primary mission of this period. He wasn't the only French thinker this applies to, though. He and another man named Jean-Jacques Rousseau were frequently held in this position. That being said, there was a debate, to say the least, between the two of them in what the revolution should look like. He is likely best known for the idea of the social contract. This contemplates the delicate balance between freedom and authority. Opposing these men's views were the long-standing House Bourbon, the rulers of the French since the late 16th century. Their power at the throne wasn't enough to prevent the French Revolution. This is what most consider to be the peak of the Enlightenment. This was, like the United States, an effort to replace the monarchy with a more fair elected government. The ideals of this revolution carry through to today and continue into influencing modern politics and government. But, like history has consistently told us again and again, all good things must come to an end. In France, the scramble for power resulted in the meteoric rise of Napoleon Bonaparte, take that as you will, and since then has been structured as a republic. Elsewhere in Europe, the monarchies faced a new threat that aimed for their power, not just over the homeland, but their colonial might as well, as shown in the many uprisings throughout their holdings in the Americas. Speaking of, in the United States, Hamilton's Federalists and Jefferson's Democratic Republicans lost their spot on the stage, and a new era of politics in the United States took hold, ushering in the inauguration of Andrew Jackson. Yay. All in all, the revolutionary ideas of the Enlightenment turned what is a more feudal Europe controlled by Christian tradition into a continent more focused on the free thought of humanity. As you can see, the history of our species would be much different if it weren't for those like Rousseau, Voltaire, and Locke. I hope you've gained insight on this monumental moment in history. And of course, thank you for watching. Hey, yeah, you know me. I'm the Napoleon guy that they were talking about earlier. Why am I here? Well, if I can time travel to San Dimas in 88, then I can be here in 22. Anyway, just letting you know, no, I'm not short. I'm quite average height for the time. I am just I was made into a dumb joke made by the dumb English to ignore the fact that I am a strategic mastermind, one that they could never match. But anyway, viva la revolution. What's that? Oh my god, it's still recording.